In today's episode, I'm going to answer a question from one of my Facebook readers, Miriam, who wrote in asking about my favorite book. So she wrote in saying, what is the most interesting and useful book that you've ever read? So thanks for the question. I get asked similar questions a lot, and I've actually created a resource on my, I think it's on the Facebook page, but it's definitely on the blog that talks about my favorite books of all time. And the number one book that has really impacted my life is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have read it. It's become somewhat of a Bible for a lot of people who are starting the business. For me, what I really liked about it was I guess there's a couple things. First off, the idea of outsourcing. So up until that point, when I first read the book, everything that I'd done, and I've had staff on board, but they've been local. So the idea of having people work for you remotely was a new concept, and we've since run with it, and it's had a huge impact on my business. And we have people working for me now who are, in Holland and in Africa and in Philippines and United States and all over the world, basically. And it's a virtual team, but they feel connected and part of the family. And so that was a really interesting concept that really helped me. Also the idea of outsourcing personal tasks and having a virtual assistant who you can hire at a fraction of the rate of what you would be earning, and can save a lot of the headaches that you go through in your own personal life. I found that really had an impact on both my business and my personal life. And then what I really love about the book is it teaches you to hack into your business and challenge the conventional thinking. And so since reading that book, I've tried to do some of the techniques from the book, including chunking your time, so you're not working all day long. Just because most people work 9 to 5 doesn't mean you have to work 9 to 5. Right? So I usually work 5 hours a day, 4 days a week now, and crunch all my work down to that time, and it's worked out pretty well. And so thank you, Tim, for writing the great book. There's a lot of other great parts in the book. I encourage you to read it if you haven't already read it. He's got 2 versions out already. Definitely pick up the second version. It's got new, cooler stories in there and real life examples. There's other things that might appeal to you, like traveling around the world and how to do it on a budget especially. But for me, I think the biggest impact was how I can get beyond myself, build a virtual team, and challenge conventional thinking, and believe more in myself and the abilities that I have to take my business to the next level. So I read that book a number of years ago. I've read the revised version more recently, and I still try to revisit the book once a year, just again to keep thinking, am I doing the right things with my business, or should other things be delegated, handed off, so I can focus more of my time, or what I call the CEO time, the most important kind of big picture things to be doing to grow my business. So check it out if you haven't read it, 4-Hour Workweek. And if you check out my blog, you can also see the top 10 list of books that I recommend for entrepreneurs to read. And hopefully there's something in there that would inspire you to continue to build and grow your business. I know they really had an impact for me.
Reading should not be your priority. Learning should be your priority. There used to be only a small number of ways to learn. It used to only be reading or maybe going to lectures and learning from people, but reading was one of the fastest ways to learn, because you could take somebody's life and in one book condense the whole thing, all of the lessons, and here you go, chance to learn. Now though, there's so many different ways to learn. There's podcasts, there's videos. And so you need to understand what is the best way that you learn. Reading does not have to be in your top priority, but learning has to be. The difference between where you are today and where you will be in 5 years, that growth will be in direct relation to how much you learn, how much you feed this brain right here with knowledge that shifts the way you think, but it doesn't have to come from reading. So looking at my story as an example, I used to read all the time. Growing up, I used to read. I'm 39 now, so I used to read a lot. Growing up, it was the only way to learn. And the idea of being able to look at any famous entrepreneur and look at their story and how they got started, that was a lot of knowledge. That allows you to step into somebody's world, right? If you don't like your environment, you don't like the people around you, you don't want to become your parents or the people in your community, you want something better, you want something bigger, then you need to start to surround yourself with those people. And reading is a great way to step into their world. And so I used to read every single week. Not quite every day, but almost. I was reading a lot. I was voracious. But as soon as video came out, I quickly shifted. I would much rather watch a video than read a book. I just learn better that way. I would much rather have an Elon Musk video, watch him and see him tell his story and look at the body language than I would reading a book about somebody else telling Elon Musk's story. That's me. That's how I learn. I listen to 0 podcasts because auditory is the slowest way for me to learn. If it was the only way, if the only way to learn was to listen to podcasts, and I would be all over it and I would force myself to do it because I love learning. But because there's so many different options and I love video first, I default to learning through video like this. Videos like this on my multiple channels. And so video is by far number 1 for me, and I consume video pretty much every single day of my life. Number 2 would be reading, and a huge drop down to number 2. I'll read maybe 3 to 4 books a year. And then number 3 would be auditory, which would be podcasts, and I consume 0 podcasts. I don't know that I've listened to an entire podcast all the way through. It would have to be some person that I can't find the video or a book on, and the only information, the only way to get it is to listen to a podcast. So the point of all this is not to slam on podcasts or audiobooks. I have my own audiobook. I read it myself. It's fire. If you love learning from auditory, then you should go and go all in on that. The point is to prioritize learning. You need to have learning as a regular part of your life. If you do not learn consistently, then you will end up in the same spot you are, right? You will be in the same spot you are in 5 years if you do not learn. But it's figuring out where do you learn best and going all in on that strategy. So what's the best way for you to learn? I'm going to give you a 3-step process that I think will help. Step number 1 is, who do you want to learn from? You want to learn from people who've done more than you have in a certain field or industry, right? If you want to learn to be a better parent, a better husband, a better wife, a better entrepreneur, a better salesperson, a better marketer, who's the person that you want to learn from? And it doesn't mean you have to become that person. The goal isn't to be the next Steve Jobs. It's to learn one thing from Steve Jobs that makes you a better version of you. So who is the person that you most want to learn from right now? Step number 2 is identify, how do you learn best? How do you learn best? I don't care what other people are doing. Do you learn best through videos? Do you learn best through reading? Or do you learn best through auditory, listening to podcasts and audiobooks? How do you learn best? And then number 3 is create a regular learning schedule. If you know who you want to learn from, the types of people, and you know your learning style, then what's your ongoing regular learning schedule? It has to be in your week, every single week. Whether that's a daily thing, whether you make that part of your daily routine, I'm a big fan of that. Otherwise, it's got to be somewhere in your week. You will never learn the material that you want to learn. You will never be able to emulate and model somebody else's success to turn you into the best version of yourself if you don't have that as a part of your regular week, right? Your actions need to map to your ambitions. What's in your calendar has to map to you accomplishing the goals that you want. If you just have goals, if you just want to learn, you want to become that person, but it's not in your schedule anywhere, you're never going to become it.
If you want to know if you need a college degree to succeed, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Michael, there's a number of reasons to go and get higher education. I don't think it would really help you with your customers. So if you wanted to learn the knowledge